Well, hello there. Welcome back. This is now lesson number 7 in SketchUp for Schools, SketchUp Make, SketchUp Pro. I haven't been talking about SketchUp Make very often. I still have it here, but the last few lessons I didn't really see much reason to go into differences. I will talk about differences on occasion, especially when those differences are significant. The biggest difference is that the tools are kind of laid out right there for you. Well, that's not the biggest difference. The difference that is significant has to do with, from what I understand, is the exporting. From what I use in my classes, it's what you can export and the different files you can export. So we'll get into that later when that becomes significant. For right now, we're going to go back to SketchUp for Schools, and I'm going to choose decimal inches, as I always do for my classes. Now, this is, like I said, the 7th lesson. So I'm teaching this thing from the perspective of somebody who's already done lessons 1 through 6. So if you haven't done 1 through 6, you should probably start at the beginning. Otherwise, it's going to get confusing. All right, I'm going to delete the person I call Edith there. And we're going to do the rotate tool today. It is very important that you learn how to rotate things intentionally. Meaning it's easy to grab. Let me show you. Let me just create something real quick. Make it easier for me to talk. Once again, I'm making this thing a group. Let me explain why. So that if I try to rotate something, and I go for my rotate tool, and I don't know where it is, probably should have figured that one out earlier. Is it here? No. Here? There it is. Rotate tool. If I take this and I try to rotate that block, I'm actually just going to rotate that surface. So that is why I was automatically going to this process of making it a group. That way when I rotate it, it will rotate the entire object. Okay. Now, if I wanted to rotate this thing in space, I could choose to rotate it. I'm going to put this thing in this. Actually, I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to click on here, which kind of puts it in this kind of, it's not truly an isometric drawing, but it is an isometric view. It's, anyways, if I can rotate it here in this direction by putting it by having a blue rotational protractor on the top. I can rotate in the green direction if I wanted to, or on the green plane. I can also rotate on the red plane. So that's one aspect of rotating that you can be specific about in terms of which direction you want to rotate. Okay. You can also rotate from specific spots. I can rotate on the middle here, there's my midpoint. I can rotate in specific spots. So that midpoint, you'll see that the spot that I clicked on is staying put as I do this. I'm controlling Z to put myself back. So we're going to talk about how to rotate accurately. To do that, I think the best thing to be creating right now is a clock. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to delete Edith again. Come down here. I'm going to actually click in this position right here and close that so I'm looking straight down at it. I'm going to create some circles. So the circles are going to be under this one right here. Create some circles. And I'm going to make these, let's make them 12 inches in radius, which means they're actually 24 inches in diameter. I'm going to leave it with 24 sides, which you should understand from the last time. And this is the move tool, which is right there. Tough for me to remember where things are. I'm going to move this over here closer to the origin. Now I'm going to grab this thing. And actually, I'm not. I'm going to turn this thing into a clock first. And then I'm going to copy and paste it. So let's turn this thing into a clock. We're going to make it a fairly simple clock. So I'm going to start out by, let's see. I'm going to grab the tape measure. I'm going to locate the middle, and I'm going to come straight up to the top, creating that line right there. Okay. I am now going to group this thing. And I'm making this thing into a group so that all the stuff that I do on top of it doesn't stick to it. So that I can create the hands and the numbers and all these things and the locations on a clock without worrying about them sticking to this surface. Okay. So now that I've got a line down the middle, I've got this thing grouped. I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I'm going to start with, I'm going to put a circle in the middle. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to grab the tape measure. I'm going to go from the center, which I'm going to have to find this way. And I'm going to come up this way. Let's go with 9 inches. And that put a little dot right there. Okay. Ooh, we're going to do something really kind of cool here in a second. So I'm going to click on that spot, and I'm going to come out here. I'm going to take my hands off, and I'm going to establish a radius on that. I'm going to go with 0.5, enter. That does a 1-inch, basically, circle. That's what that is. All right, now, you'll remember before when we did this, you could grab this whole thing, take the move tool, you can click and drag to make a copy of it, and you can establish how far that is. We'll say 30 inches just for the heck of it, and then times 100 to get 100 copies, right? That same process can be done with the rotate tool as well. So we're going to grab this thing here, and I'm going to take the rotate tool, which was down in here, and I'm going to click on the center. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go up to here. I'm going to hold the control button. I'm going to click, take my hands off, move the mouse, take my hands off, and now I'm going to tell it how many degrees I want it to rotate at an angle. Sorry if I'm getting you confused at this point. I promise I'll repeat a lot here. So how far do I need to rotate? I'm rotating it. There's going to be 12 different, I'm dividing it in 12 because the clock is 12, which means that the answer is 30 degrees. So I'm going to type 30, enter. Now that is 1/12 of 360 degrees is 30 degrees. And then I'm going to type times 11, enter, because I'm doing that 11 times. And if you're confused, I'm going to explain it all again right now. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to talk about what I just did. All right, I believe that is here. Delete all guides. Okay. All right, so what I did, actually I'm going to Control Z and go, and I'm going to Control Y forward everything I did. Okay, first off, I created a 12-inch in diameter circle. Okay, I left it with 24 sides, so you could definitely see all those little sides. Control Y, I drew a line right down the middle. I took the tape measure and I went from the center to the top, putting that line in place. Then I established 9 inches from the center with a tape measure, so that I could figure out this is where I want to put my circles for my clock, where I would put numbers. I then put a 1/2-inch radius circle on that spot. And then what I needed to do at that point was put 11 more circles around in a circle, accurately rotated to a specific angle, a specific distance from the center around. And I'm going to go ahead and pick up right here and just start fresh. So I'm grabbing the rotate tool. And once again, I'm going to need to select this thing first. That's important. The rotate tool, as a lot of tools are, by the way, is an auto select tool. So if I hover over something, it's going to select. The problem being is that I want to rotate this thing right here, that little spot, which I can auto select if I want. But I need to rotate it from a different spot. So I'm going to have to pre-select it. And actually, I'm going to make it a group as well. And it's also selecting part of that line for some reason. I'm not sure why it's not just selecting that spot. But I'm going to take the rotate tool now. Nope, I'm going to select that object. I'm going to grab the rotate tool. And I need to rotate this from a very specific spot, and that spot would be the center of the clock. That's where I'm going to rotate these spots. So I'm going to go to here, right here. I'm going to click there, And honestly, I can click anywhere. It doesn't matter where I click at this point, because this is now going to rotate on that spot, which is where I need to rotate these circles. But I'm just going to click on the circle with the control button down. I pushed the control button while I clicked. I'm going to rotate, take my hands off, and I'm going to type 30, because 360 divided by 12 is 30, which is basically means I just rotated this 30 degrees. And now I need to tell it how many times I want to do that. I could just keep doing that. In fact, I'll do it again. I don't have to say times 11. I could just take this one now, and I could rotate that from this spot right there, which is the center. Click, control click, rotate 30 degrees. I could keep doing that over and over again. But at this point, I can say times or X 10, enter, and it's going to do it 10 more times. All right? If you're having trouble with that, if it was confusing for you, then just try it a few times and until you figure it out. All right? And rewind the video and watch it a few times as you need to. So at the moment, we now have a clock face with little spots locating all the different times on a clock. All right? I'm going to talk about something else at the moment. I'm going to make this a group here. And now we have groups within groups and such. So at this point, this whole thing is a group. But if I wanted to, I could explode it, which is basically ungrouping it. And now this is its own group. And each of these are their own individual groups as well. But I'm going to go ahead and group as I go. Especially because this is the last time, this whole thing is going to stay exactly the way it is through this entire process. This is basically the clock face. Okay, so now we have a basic simple clock. All right, so the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to create some hands for this clock. To make the hands on the clock, I'm going to go back to the center with a circle here. And I'm going to put in the center something that we're going to make them a big fat hand, so 1 inch. So that is basically 2 inches in diameter is what that is, because I typed 1 inch for the radius. I am now going to, from this area here, I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to take from here. I'm going to go in the middle from here. You'll see that I went around here so that I could find the center. And I'm going to go straight up in this direction 7 inches. Okay. From this position, I'm going to come over here to that spot right there. I'm going to come back to here and go over to here and do the same thing on this side. I'm now going to delete all of this stuff here. And I've basically made a big fat hand. We're going to call that one the minute hand. And I'm going to make that a group. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing I did a moment ago. I'm going to, see, it's not finding the center for me because I deleted part of that circle. But I could still come out here, pause, come back to the center, find that spot, and I'm going to type in 0.5 inches. Okay, I'm going to go from the center of this one now, and I'm going to come up this way 4 inches, and I'm going to repeat the same thing I did before. I'm going to come here and here, here, and I'm going to make this thing a group. Now, I can absolutely picture my students clicking, triple clicking on this, click, 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 hold on, click, 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 and too much is being grabbed, meaning they forgot, they did not group this. You got to make sure you're grouping as you go. I've got a clock here, a clock face which has been grouped, so it will no longer attach to anything. I now have this thing that's been grouped, so it will no longer stick to anything. And now I'm going to make this thing a group here as well. So what I've got is at this point 3 major groups. I've got the clock, I've got the minute hand, I've got the hour hand. They are all centered on this point right here. That is crucial. This is where you need to get to in order to proceed with this project before. And if you're not here, you should go back to the beginning and redo. You need to have this whole thing set up just like this. Everything, this is basically midnight, and there's your clock. Okay? Next step, moving forward. And do not move forward unless you have this correct. Okay? Next step, I want you to take this entire thing and you're going to grab the move tool. You're going to grab a hold of it. You're going to click, drag to the right. You're going to type, let's go 40, enter, times 5, enter. And you're going to get 6 clocks. Okay? So we have 6 different clocks, and they're all set to midnight or noon or whatever, however you want to think about that. What we're going to do now is we're going to rotate each clock to a specific time. I'm going to come in on this one, and we're going to rotate this clock to the beginning of first period, which is 8:15. To do that, I need to set each of these hands. So we're going to start with the hour hand. Actually, yeah, we'll start with the hour hand each time. So I'm going to click on the hour hand. This is by far the assignment that my students make the most mistakes on. Which is why I'm going to give them a couple days to get this one done and fixed. This is the one that needs to be redone the most. So this is the moment, whatever minutes hand is on the video, this is where you want to return to if you've made mistakes, because this is where I'm going to explain to you how to do it right. You're going to go to the rotate tool. You need to go here, find that center. Everything, the entire clock is based on that center. So I'm going to, first off, step 1, I selected the hour hand. See how it's blue? It's been selected. Step 2, I take the rotate tool, I hover right there, and I click on the center. Click. I'm now going to move up to this position here, and I'm going to rotate it to where I want. So 8:15, that's 8 o'clock, right? So 8:15 should be somewhere around, probably right around there, right? A little after 8 o'clock. Now I'm going to grab this button, I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to rotate it, hovering over here, grabbing from the center, grabbing to here, and I'm going to rotate over. I'm going to be accurate, actually, because I can do that, to right there. And that is 8:15. I should have made the minute hand skinnier, but this is what I've got at the moment. It doesn't really matter. The short hand is the hour hand, the long hand is the minute hand. So this is a little after 8 o'clock. This is at 15 minutes. All right, the next time you're going to be setting for is second period, which is at 9:10. So 9:10 means you're going to be taking this hand here. You're going to grab the rotate tool. It's selected. The hour hand is selected. I'm going to move over here so that I can find that center. I'm going to click here. Click here. We're looking at 9:10, so that's a little after 9. So that's 9 o'clock. So 9:10 is probably somewhere around there. Selecting the hour hand, or the minute hand, excuse me. Rotate, rotate. Once again, gonna find that middle. Click, click. 10 minutes is right there. All right, so the rest of you out there in internet land, YouTube land, should set these clocks however you want. Practice setting them to different times. Recognize that the lesson here is rotating these correctly and knowing how to accurately rotate things and creating arrays and such. That's what you want to practice at this point. Let me show you what students do when they do this wrong. They're here, they're here, they're here. Oops, control that. That was not the rotate tool. Let's try that again. Rotate tool, they grab it, they rotate it like that. They take this thing and they rotate it like that. And when I look at it, I can see that there's something wrong here. This does not look correct. I can say that these hands are supposed to be centered on that spot. It looks like I actually rotated that hour hand correctly, even though I didn't try to. I was trying to be careless about it. But you can see I did not rotate that minute hand correctly. So this is what I see when I look at these works, and I can tell that something is wrong. And this is the primary problem. Okay, so you've got to make sure that you're rotating things accurately on the axis. All right, so here is the assignment for the day. to make these, or the lesson for the day for the rest of you out there in YouTube land. All right, we'll see you back in a couple days. All right, bye-bye.